welcome back. Kill the Cat Radio, Sharp Teeth, episode 30. 30 episodes. Can you believe that? 30 episodes in a row. What a year it has been. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. We've got 77 subscribers thus far. We need to get to 100 before the end of the year. If you have not subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button below. It helps me. It helps the algorithms out there. Machines, they're taking over. You know who's not going to take over Kill the Cat Radio? No one but me, because this is Kill the Cat Radio. My name is Matthew Diabate. We got the guitar right back over here, just like normal. We got the hat on the wall right here. Our book this week is Ray Bradbury, fantastic writer, short story writer, visionary, fantastic guy, real weird dude. I think he wrote hundreds and hundreds of short stories over his time. He's one of those guys who just can't stop typing. It's great. I admire that stuff as a writer. And since we're going to be talking about writing for this episode 30, we are going to be discussing Literate Sunday, invention that I started almost 10 years ago. That's a decade in New York. I mean, that might as well be dog years in New York City. Okay, 10 years in New York City, something that continues on. We got my little plant over here. That's Aphrodite. That's my new little orchid. I love it. It's the first plant I had in this apartment. It's so cool. Very excited to be here. Thank you all for joining us. Got our clipboard here. We're ready to go in episode 30. Our title today is, what is Literate Sunday? And how did it come to be? Literate Sunday. Wow, what a strange little thing I created accidentally. So Literate Sunday started kind of by accident. It was a writer adventure. I was bartending at a bar called the Plank Bar, and I had the Sunday shift, and a lot of my friends came in for the Sunday shift. Sunday shift's about we open at noon or 1-ish, and then I'd work till about 10. So it's like a 10-hour shift. Sunday, it was a dive bar. It was right on the main drag, but it was in such a dark place. The Plank was known as Sin Lounge before the Plank. And before that, it was Rain Lounge. So it always had this kind of reputation for being very dangerous. So when I took the Sunday shift over with the ladies who were running it after the main character, he died here in Brooklyn. And these ladies who used to work for him took it over, and the Plank became the Plank. And so they wanted to make it like Walk the Plank, kind of nautically themed. It was like blue wallpaper, very cheap beer and shot special. I believe we were the only ones that still had the $6 beer and shot special. Anyways, I always make really good Bloody Marys. I have a whole system. It's like 16 ingredients. I can make it in less than a minute. I can make a whole Bloody Mary, a pint glass Bloody Mary. Oh, delicious. People really love the Bloody Mary. People really love coming in on Sundays for it. We kind of changed the environment where instead of it being like this hardcore gangster bar, on Sundays, it was kind of for nerds and nice creative individuals to come hang out. What I did do was write on the board best Bloody Marys ever, right, for a certain price. I think it was like $7 or $8 at the time, but you got a lot of booze in there, so it was like a double. And then I actually put on the sign free short stories. I just thought it was so funny to put out short stories, print out short stories of my own or just of the other writers that would hang out with me. So much fun. And then we kind of became very competitive, as writers often do. So point one of episode 30 here is that one of the creations of Literate Sunday was a bunch of writers gathering together on a Sunday day, and everybody had their own ideas about what they wanted to write. Everybody wanted to be a famous writer of some sort. But through a mix of probably creativity, luck, and a bit of whiskey, I thought of an idea. I thought, how cool would it be if each of the writers that hung out there, we all knew each other's work. How cool would it be if each of us tried to write in a style that was not our normal style, completely different from anything we've ever done before? But this time I would try to write in a way that no one knew that it was me. So let's say you got the guy who's usually writing sci-fi. Let's make him write a romance or a drawing room drama. Something out of some 19th century, Proust kind of stuff. So we would actually exchange each story together. So we would come to Literate Sunday on the Sunday at my bar. We would bring our own short story printed, or they would send it to me and I'd print it up. And then we'd have a nice little stack of short stories. So when people did come in for the Bloody Mary, they'd be like, well, where's the free short stories? And we would direct them over to the corner of the room. And I think there's a couple pictures that I'll show you right now, with a little typewriter there. It was very basic beginnings, super writer nerd stuff. But before you know it, people came in to find out what stories were going on. And then even better, is that they would write their opinions about the short stories on the back of these printed out little materials we had. And it became like an anonymous book club. That was the whole thing. Everything had to be anonymous. It was like the Fight Club of writers. So it was Literate Sunday. It had to be anonymous, and you had to turn in a story. So soon, we made business cards. We would hand them out and say, come on by, get a Bloody Mary, read a short story, write on the back of it. Maybe it's yours. Maybe people would write about your story and give you advice or insult you or whatever. Super cool idea. Came out of nowhere. So we stepped up the game a little bit. Then we made a website that you could join. And before you know it, I started leaving these business cards around in different bathrooms. You could see, like from these pictures, I would leave them in random places. When I would go to Paris to work, I would leave them at Shakespeare and Company. I would leave them in the Red Wheelbarrow, which is a great bookstore there. I would leave these cards everywhere. We started getting an international audience, even from just these little business cards that said, if you look at the business card, go ahead. It was pretty simple. It was kind of intriguing. It's mystifying and totally free for writers and readers alike. To join, you just send an email to literatesunday@gmail. Like, you guys can join that. You guys out there, if you're not a member of Literate Sunday, if something like this is interesting to you, then you definitely should send an email. Just say hi or fuck off to literatesunday@gmail. I'll put a link below, but still, you should just, if you want to be a part of this kind of thing. Long story short is how we got famous. Actually, just part 2 of the Literate Sunday portion of episode 30. I don't know how it happened. It could have totally been some kind of intoxicated evening. I left these cards or gave these cards to a very interesting journalist named Sheila McClear. Fantastic woman, great journalist. She ended up coming to find out what was going on these Sundays that, you walk in. It's pretty rare to see a really scary kind of dive bar. But then all these people reading at 1 p.m. on a Sunday, drinking. They're reading short stories. People are talking about, oh, who wrote this short story? Oh, this interesting sci-fi story is great. Or, this erotica story is fun. Oh, wow, who wrote this crime story this week? And then on top of that, I would print up already famous short stories, take their name off of it. So when you saw people write on the back of it, like, oh, this story sucks, it's like, secretly, I knew. You just called Jack London a bad writer. It's like, seriously? So if you don't have the name, it kind of takes away the ego from the writer itself. That's kind of the whole point. And also, it really helps like new writers who don't know what they're getting into, and maybe they're shy, maybe they're, the feeling of failure is so strong sometimes for new writers. Taking the name off of it, making it anonymous, chills the writer out so they're able to be as free as they possibly can. Anyway, going back to this New York Times journalist, she came, wanted to do a piece on me, and said, would you like to do a piece? I'm going to pitch this piece to the New York Times. And would you like to be a part of that? Is that okay with you? And of course. Who doesn't want to be in the New York Times? I just thought, wow, a small Rhode Island boy, who would ever put him in the big gray lady newspaper, like forever, that's like it's a paper of record, right? How exciting is that? Just to be involved in something so cool, so writer driven, totally by accident. Well, guess what, folks? It did happen. She comes, photographer, this Japanese photographer lady rolls in. She's taking pictures of me. Boom, there's a picture of me now. You can look at it. I look like Allen Ginsberg. I got a beard and everything with my glasses. I was trying to wear like a nice suit jacket. It was really awkward, actually. I've never had my picture taken by the New York Times. So it was just very much like, oh, okay, we need to take this very seriously. So she comes, and of course, there's a huge party, and everybody's like, what? The New York Times is here? Like, they're interested in it. It's going to come out in the culture section on a Sunday edition. How perfect is this moment? Just from an idea, just from being some kind of like drinking writer with a bunch of other writers, suddenly you take this little idea that started very meagerly at a dive bar in Brooklyn, and it becomes this thing where the New York Times actually wants to make a piece about a literary movement called Literate Sunday. Unbelievable. Now, there were a couple of complications at the start. One of them being it's anonymous. So even Sheila coming in saying, are you Matthew Diabate? Are you the leader of Literate Sunday? I was conflicted. Because yes, it is a literary game that we're playing, right? Like, I have to be anonymous. I can't tell anybody who's part of the group. And by that point, we already had different writers that actually already had writing careers. Like, they were careered writers who were part of Literate Sunday. So I told her that too. And she says, oh, who are the writers with already careers? And I said, well, I can't very well tell you that, can I? That would break the rules of the anonymity of Literate Sunday. So I purposely did not tell her anything, which intrigued her, I'm sure, and probably intrigued her bosses as well. So long story short, here we go. My personal job when I was an assistant to a writer was taking me over to Germany. So I was going to go live in Berlin for about 3 months. What amazing timing, though, is because the Sunday before I was supposed to leave to Germany to go on my writing assignment to finish this crime novel I was working on, the New York Times article was going to come out that Sunday. This is about 10 years ago. It's crazy. Like, so here's me being interviewed by the New York Times. Piece is going to come out the Sunday before. I fly out that Monday and I'm out of here. I'm in Berlin. Boom. Piece comes out Sunday. Ugh, come on. I know you writers out there want to be famous. I know everybody wants to be famous. I don't want to be famous, but it was such a cool moment to know that this was going to happen. So we do an interview over at Library Bar, and I'll put the link to the New York Times article down below so you guys can read it. See that picture where I look very much like Allen Ginsberg, or at least your local rabbi. Oh, Adonai. We go to Library Bar, me and Sheila. We do an interview. I choose my words very carefully because I know how crafty, even trusted journalists, they got to work with what they got. And so I wanted to make sure I threw in a lot of different pieces of information. One of them that I was a writer. Two, that I love writers. I was from Rhode Island, which not a lot of writers are from Rhode Island. We got H.P. Lovecraft. We got Cormac McCarthy. We got Matthew Diabate, okay? It was really cool that it was at my first bar I ever got drunk at in New York City many, many years ago, the Library Bar. So it's very literary, kind of connected. Everything was being formed absolutely perfectly. I was so elated to even be in this situation. I was on cloud 9. I had no idea what was going on, which leads me to the problem, point 3. A week before this article that she wrote, Sheila McClear, for the New York Times, in the culture section on a Sunday edition of the New York Times, by the way, that's the thick paper, calls me up on the phone and says, the New York Times wants to know if you'll mention the famous writers or the successful writers that are part of your group, Literate Sunday. Could you tell us the names of that so we can verify that you're not full of BS, right? Totally respectable. I get it, right? I could be just making things up as I go along. I wasn't, but I could have been. So I understand that they said that. And I said, well, how do we get around this? What do we do? Sheila said, look, just, it's up to you. Do you want to tell them who's part of Literate Sunday? You know, like what you said, like the more successful individuals that might or might not be a part of your anonymous writing group. People would like to know that. So would you tell us that answer? And I said, I don't know. It kind of goes against the whole anonymity thing. I mean, I could tell you, but it would have to be off the record and it's weird. And then she dropped the bomb on me. She said, well, the New York Times won't put out your article unless you name names. Like, tell us at least, like, give us something to work with here. And I'll tell you right now, it was a dark night of the soul for me because I was faced with two options, and I'm not sure how you guys would deal with this situation. You could go ahead and put it in the comments below, like how you guys would deal with it, or reach out, Kill the Cat Radio. Basically, it was like a twofer, right? It was basically, yes, your project is worthy enough to be known by the New York Times and all over the world, what have you. Problem is, though, you need to name names of the people that joined your group because it was anonymous. So by revealing who they were, I'd be breaking the actual rule, the only rule that Literate Sunday even has. Anonymous short stories every week. Okay. But then the other part of me, maybe the devil part of me, was like, I really want to be in the New York Times. I really want my picture there. Call it vanity, call it pride, call it whatever. I really wanted to be in the New York Times. Who wouldn't want to be in the New York Times? I mean, I got the thing right here. I got the article like right here framed over here. Who would not want that, right? What ended up happening, I went out and I had a dark night of the soul moment. Took a nice bottle of Jameson to the head, thought about it, weighed the options. Yes, I want to be in the New York Times. But if I do comply with what they want, then I would be selling out the whole point of what Literate Sunday is, which is anonymity, right? Like, I'm already giving up because I'm telling you that I'm the leader of Literate Sunday. It's like Tyler Durden, leader of Fight Club. You don't talk about Fight Club. Long story short, I get very, 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 very intoxicated, inebriated. Finally, at the end, the next morning, totally hungover, I call up Sheila and I say, I ain't saying shit. She's like, okay, we're going to figure it out. I'm going to let the editors know. I'll get back to you. Now, my Germany excursion is coming up soon. And the Sunday that the article was supposed to come out was right before I was leaving to Germany. So I really wanted things to go perfect, but God laughs at man's great plans. He calls me back and says two things. She says, one, they're going to run the story. They respect you for not saying anything. I'm like, wow, okay, okay. However, it's going to be the week after you leave to Germany. I mean, God does laugh at man's great plans. So I did all this work and all this process and all these things, and it's my bartending shift. But the Sunday that it's going to come out in the newspaper, the most proudest moment for my family name and all of that stuff to be known, probably one of the biggest experiments I've ever done in literary history. And I'm not even going to be there to see it. I even have a dude work for me, and to be like, okay, well, you're going to be working. I'll be in Berlin, but it's going to be packed. Long story short, again, I'm in Berlin. The story comes out. I'm getting phone calls. I'm getting emails. I mean, thousands of people try to reach out to me that day, wondering who am I? What am I doing? Copycat articles from Argentina all the way to Sweden to Japan, writing about Literate Sunday. I mean, it was ridiculous how much it blew up. Like overnight, just to be in the section, just to be in the Sunday portion, just to be in the paper. Your picture's there. People are like a dive bar in Brooklyn, and there's free short stories and Bloody Marys and beer and shot specials. And what are we doing over here? I mean, it was like crazy. Okay, 9 years ago. Crazy. From all accounts, that Sunday that I was not there to see my own creation, apparently it was packed. Women were everywhere, men were everywhere, other journalists were everywhere. I guess that day people just came in and just started reading all the short stories. How cool is that? Yes, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall, but no, I was in Berlin, running around Berlin, trying to find the American international newspaper of the New York Times Sunday edition. I could only find some international version. I couldn't even see my own creation come out that day in one of the biggest newspapers in all of the world. Couldn't even get the opportunity to do that. Now, a lot of people took pictures and they sent me things on email, but I never could feel it in my hands because there I was. I was in Germany, very far away from the United States and in a totally different universe. But man, what an accomplishment. It came out. It was a success. People joined. Everybody was like, how are you going to make money from it? The money people try to come in. Some people try to buy the idea. 9 years later, it's still free completely to the audience. Literate Sunday, if you want to join, see what we're talking about. It's been going on now since the bar closed down. It's primarily an online thing now. You could send any story you want to send. If you want to send a story, you should send in a story if you want to. Make sure it's 3 pages, Times New Roman, 12-point font. We'll look into it. But that was the beginning of Literate Sunday. Can you believe that? What a funny story that is. To aim so low, to have a drunken idea. That drunken idea becomes an actual idea. The actual idea becomes a New York Times article, which now makes it truly bona fide, like really like legit, in the annals of time. Literate Sunday now is a thing, and we've been running it ever since. So it's been fantastic. And, we still have thousands of members. And of course, we've got to go to the next section, my favorite, the creep of the week. Now, keeping it in the boundaries of what we're talking about the creation of Literate Sunday for episode 30 here. Creep of the week, I gotta say, has been the relentless amount of people who have tried to monetize this idea. Now, they're not wrong. I mean, if you have a good idea in American life, you probably should make some money from it. I mean, generally speaking, in America, you can have 1 or 2 great ideas. And if you don't capitalize on those great ideas, then you're going to be left in the dust. But there were 2 major problems that I had when I was trying to think about monetizing Literate Sunday. It was like, 1, I could create a paywall, make people just not even be able to read the stories, or even me and my missive I sent out every Sunday, and I can make them pay for that. Maybe like a $3 thing, like once a month or something, which wouldn't be that bad, I guess. And maybe we will get to that eventually, but I don't want to put up advertisements. I don't like pop-ups. I want writers who generally don't have a lot of money to be able to feel free that they can communicate and participate in this awesome scenario that we're doing. So I don't really want to do the monetary thing, but so many people came to me and said, hey, Matt, you got to monetize this. You got to do something. And they're not necessarily wrong, but in the end, people are like, well, then what are you doing it for? And that's, to me, what the creepiest thing is like, these people don't care about writers becoming themselves, and they're not seeing the long game. They're like, okay, well, how do you make as much money as you possibly can right now? It's a great idea, so let's do this. Which, again, I'm not against monetization of anything. Like, money is great. I need money. I mean, who doesn't need money? But the perversity of taking this pure idea and trying to figure out a way of advertising it or doing something. I don't know. It just doesn't, it rubbed me the wrong way every time. So I think the creep of the week is that natural instinct to be like, oh, here's something good. Let's put some money to it. Now, will we have to do that? I mean, maybe we will, because, it takes a lot of time to do this kind of stuff. Like, get what they're saying. I mean, they're not that creepy, I guess. The only creepy thing about it is that it always has to go right there, right? How American is that? It's like, oh, here's something beautiful. How do I make $1 out of it? I'm not insulting capitalism. I love capitalism. I'm just saying that's creepy to me. How many people and how many weird people wanted to like take the idea and run with it? I mean, there was somebody in Arizona that was like, hey, I'm going to do the same thing. Can you franchise it out to me or something? And I'm like, what? It just, that kind of stuff just, I don't know. It just it rubs me the wrong way. I'm not really. And I said, hey, just do your own thing. Just don't call it Literate Sunday, because I can't be in control of the product. I have to be in control of these writers. They need to have like one guy who's the one these writers and readers can trust. And that's me, Matthew Diabate. That's who I am. I'm the leader of Literate Sunday. I mean, I'm not even supposed to tell you guys that. But hey, what is this, online? Oh, those algorithms, they'll get you every time. So that's the creep of the week. It's just that incessant need to take something beautiful and put a $sign on it. To me, it's just creepy, especially, I don't know how many of you have ever had that feeling of fame before, when people come at you, like, never would have talked to you before, but because you had a great idea, suddenly, boom, they're like, bah, 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 in your face. I never had that. And it was really awkward. And yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, that's the creep of the week, the incessant $sign that rules all of our lives. This is Sharp Teeth. You guys are the best audience ever. I'm Matthew Diabate. You can follow us on all the face crooks and the Twitters and the Instagrams. Thank you. Please hit the subscribe button. Kill the Cat Radio. Stay curious, because what killed the cat is curiosity. Satisfaction brought it back.